I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you're looking for an outdated fantasy football magazine, I can guarantee I don't have it. What I do have is a very particular set of fantasy football skills. Skills I have acquired from purchasing the Hateful Eight Fantasy Football Draft Loadout, with up-to-date access to draft cheat sheets of all scoring types, full rookie prospect profiles, articles with an in-depth look at sleepers, busts, my guy, value candidates, draft picks, player trading, and so much more. So head on over to www.averagejoenation.com and purchase the Draft Loadout. And for those of you that don't, no, I will look for you. No, I will find you. No, I will humiliate and dominate you on my way to a fantasy football championship.
Here we go. Welcome, Average Joe Nation from around the globe. Props to you for staying up to date and keeping in the know. With fantasy football, man, very soon you'll reign. The knowledge that these three guys have, man, it is insane. Yeah, fantasy football talk hateful eight, they wear the crown. Hold it down. Pickle, Blackburn, and Trimboli, hold it down. Pulling up to the recording studio, we're getting loud. Getting ready, headphones on, red light go, break it down.
Welcome back to the Hateful Eight Fantasy Football Podcast with your host, Tom Pickle, and with me as always, Blackburn.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today is draft day. It's Christmas in April.
It is. It is a good day. Obviously, we're recording it several hours.
Yeah, and I'm
before.
Frank.
I was going to say, and Trimboli.
That's all right.
Always
all by myself.
Showed up early to the studio.
Yeah, guys,
way
to be on time.
It's okay. We can't be the responsible party every week.
Or any week.
I definitely can.
Anyway, so as Blackburn had said, today is officially draft day, day one. Obviously, we're recording it pretty early in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, Eastern Standard. So less than 12 hours away till the official kickoff of the NFL draft. And I have a feeling, before we get too far into it, over, under, first 10 picks, how many do you think are going to be like complete surprises or shocks that you don't expect? Like over, under, we'll just say 3 of people that like randomly have not been mentioned, all of a sudden move up.
Under.
I was going to say under.
So you're thinking 2 or less?
I'm just more, less than 2, but I mean, it's who's going to trade up.
Right.
That's the surprise for me.
The thing with this draft is there's not really a polarizing quarterback to where like it's even a Julio Jones or somebody like that. There's nobody polarizing like that for a team to take a chance and move up on, in my opinion.
Right. I was going to say, I saw somebody posted that question on Twitter, and I was like, I think that's a pretty good, valid question to open up the show with, the question-wise, because, I mean, first 10 picks usually is when, you see the most movement of any kind. I mean, for guys that are, in the top 15, all of a sudden, hey, we got to get in that top 3 to get one of those guys in the years past, which, like you're saying, I don't think that we're going to see anybody do any drastic.
There's no Andrew Luck out here, that everybody's got. There's no can't-miss guy.
There is Daniel Jones, though.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I think if Murray goes 1 and Rosen's not dealt, we're going to see a lot of trades
Well,
then.
I think, this whole week's been nothing but Washington, New York moving up to get Haskins or whoever. There's a lot of smoke screens this last week, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I agree. If Murray's the guy, Josh Rosen will be dealt to somebody.
Right. So I think we're all on the same page. It's basically, I know in a weird way, it comes down to who goes at the number 1 overall pick as to what the trickle-down effect for the NFL
draft. That's what the
draft.
NFL wanted. Usually this stuff's leaked already. A team's committed to drafting this guy number 1. We have no clue.
Don't worry, John Gruden and Mike Mayock, they fired their whole scout team literally the week before just because they didn't want to get something getting leaked out.
Dude,
I'm like,
the
you hired
train's
them.
coming off the rails.
I'm like,
You think so? I don't know. Mike Mayock knows his stuff.
Mike Mayock knows his stuff, but I'm just wondering how much Gruden's got his hand in the
And
process.
they said the 4 pick was going to be a surprise. It was going to be a shocker.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, surprise for them, too. They're going to draw it from a hat.
DB out of Western Kentucky. What?
Taking a kicker.
Taking a kicker.
Bobby Boucher.
Bobby Boucher. So today's segment is all about the sleepers. Obviously, this could potentially change as we get farther into the offseason, but these are at this very moment guys that we're looking at that are kind of either under the radar or maybe being drafted a little bit behind where we think that they're going to end up finishing at the end of the year at the very moment. Obviously, injuries, the draft, or trades because of the draft could potentially change some of these guys' positions as to where they're going to be drafted as well as finish-wise. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube, and as well as on DATV. You can find us anywhere you're listening to your podcasts. So we appreciate you guys joining us today as the big start point.
Absolutely.
Jeez. All right, let's go ahead and get into the fantasy news and notes.
Fantasy news and notes.
All right, fantasy news and notes presented by Sleeper. If you want to stay up to date on all things fantasy news related, which is probably going to be blowing up today with all the different drafts, picks, as well as any type of trades or last-minute movement of players and teams and stuff like that. So also you can use this for your fantasy football leagues, whether it's Dynasty, Keeper, or Redraft. They have the new feature that you can actually port over from any of the other platforms to make it a smooth transition for you guys. So it's free to join. Download it on iOS or Android. So for fantasy news-wise, not a ton, but the biggest ones that I found for this week so far is the GM for the Seattle Seahawks says the team has no timetable for Doug Baldwin's return to from the sports hernia. Also, Doug Baldwin kind of piggybacked off of this and said, yeah, I really don't have a timetable for myself. So
Tyler Lockett.
Lockett. Or
I look for them to draft a wide receiver tonight because usually, or all the mock drafts that I've seen have the wide receivers going at the tail end of the first, beginning of the second.
Right.
I can see the Seahawks grabbing a nice wide receiver here.
I was going to say, I think that's the biggest question mark. The true table, I mean, even though they won't say the timetable, but if they take one of these higher up echelon wide receivers in this group, or if they move up to take a wide receiver, I think that the writing's on the wall that they're not expecting Baldwin to be back till probably closest as possible to kick off for the NFL season. So,
well, my thing is they just paid Russell Wilson all that money, right?
Right.
So you want to get as many skill players on rookie contracts as possible.
Right.
So I could definitely see them grabbing a high price or high top wide receiver here and not paying them much money at all.
Right. And I mean, in the sports hernia, depending on how severe it is, it can be a simple, like, couple weeks, couple months type thing versus, like, a while. I mean, Nick Bosa specifically, most recently, who's going to be in the NFL draft this year, he had
49ers.
He ended up having a sports hernia that he got from the TCU game, which was like game one of the season. And he was, per medical reports, he wasn't really physically, like, even able to potentially even try to come back to like the Michigan State game. So I mean, you think about that, how long that was to be in like prime, ready to 100% ready to go, and I don't even think he would have been 100% ready to go then.
Yeah, but the Bosa situation is totally different. It's college. He wasn't going to come back regardless. Even if he came back earlier, he was sitting the rest of the year. There's no point in re-injuring yourself. But with Baldwin, it's the same story every year.
Yeah.
And
he's coming up on that 3-0.
Yeah.
We always talk about it. The guy's over 30. He's about to be one of them.
Right. So definitely tune in to the NFL draft, obviously, to see how the Seahawks handle their first round draft or their first picks. In theory, the first couple picks, I guess, is the best way to look at it for wide receiver purposes. If they take one of these upper echelon guys, so. And then another one, Adam Schefter reporting that Marshawn Lynch is officially retiring from the NFL, not coming back, which
he needs to. I mean, come on.
It couldn't have been a better timing for the Oakland Raiders just to make sure before they went into the NFL draft weekend.
Well, they had initially said that they were going to move on from Marshawn Lynch, and then he just said, I'm just going to retire.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing for him. He got to do what he wanted in his career, which is play for the hometown team, the Oakland Raiders, before they went to Las Vegas. It didn't really pan out like for ring purposes or any type of like accolades for like trophies and things like that, but I think ultimately for him, I think the bigger picture was to be able to come back home and play for the hometown team before they went to Vegas. So
right, it was his twilight tour.
Yep.
Right. So it's good for him, and it's good for the Raiders. Now they've got Isaiah Crowell, Chris Warren, and Jalen Richard in there. So I just think that if they could potentially still go get a
that three-headed monster
Oh.
scares me. Like,
Right.
It's crazy.
I'm scooping all those guys up.
I mean, there's talks that they may take a quarterback too, even though they got Derek Carr. So
Just told you, man. They're drafting the
Raiders
pick
could
from
do
a hat.
that. Watch Raiders just shock everybody and pick like Greer and with the 4th overall pick.
well, the two quarterbacks that they liked the most on their draft board was obviously Haskins and Murray. So I'm assuming if Murray's drafted 1, the only quarterback that they would take it for would be Haskins, obviously.
I'd
but
be so mad.
anyways,
Unless we get Rosen.
right,
You're getting Rosen.
right.
I would
hope
love
you
it
do.
because that would save us our 1st-round pick.
Yeah.
So,
You're getting Rosen.
although as a Cowboys fan, I would really be happy for you guys to take Daniel Jones and just move up. Go ahead and take him.
I want everyone to move up because I want the defensive players to fall to me.
You guys are
going
going
to
to get that linebacker.
I hope.
So, all right. As of yesterday, Adam Schefter reported that the district attorney, in reference to the Tyreek Hill case, says that they will not be pressing charges for the domestic abuse. Now, per his wording, He said he believes a crime was committed. However, per the evidence that was given to them that they've been able to investigate and find, there's not enough to pinpoint who actually may or may not have committed the crime. So
having said that, we did our wide receiver show a couple weeks ago. I had him at number 2. You guys had him out of the top 10, I believe.
Right.
Now,
well, I think it was like closer back into the top 10. But yeah.
Well, whatever. Does that bump him up in your guys' book now?
No.
Now that there's no legal trouble?
I think a suspension's still coming.
I think there's still a suspension coming. Whether it's, I mean,
how can there be a suspension though if there's no like?
I don't know.
Zeke,
I don't know.
same
Do you remember a guy named Ezekiel Elliott?
Yeah.
So
that's what happens when you look like an Ewok.
And he's got a previous history. That's the problem.
The biggest thing here, which should be the major point, really, regardless of charges and suspension, the child was involved.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a move from the house.
I get it, but I don't know. If you're alleged to do something, I get it that there's a trial period, a waiting period, but with no evidence and no conviction, he shouldn't be touched.
Right.
In my opinion.
Well, I mean, we've all agreed that Goodell tends to step over his legal boundaries on many of times, and it just seems like, depending on the case, guys like, we'll just say like Josh Gordon, who gets in trouble and suspended and Martavis Bryant, in reference to the drug charges, like specifically weed, they're getting suspended for a bunch of games.
Yeah, but they actually failed drug tests.
Right. But I'm saying then you got guys like Ezekiel Elliott, who's been attached to a potential domestic violence situation, and he had 6 games. And I'm banking on Tyreek Hill to have 6 games or less. I'm banking
like
somewhere
with the
in that 3
Adrian
to 6
Peterson
games.
thing. The Adrian Peterson thing was the same thing, but there was proof.
Right.
And he got suspended the whole season.
Right. So I just think ultimately in the big picture, outside of fantasy, like Treboy was saying, the fact that this kid has been affected now twice in 2 separate instances is just, it sucks for the kid. And now he's not even with his parents. So, I mean, that's a whole other issue in itself. But what we're tapping into on just the fantasy football side, I think where I had Tyreek Hill closer to the back end of the top 10 is comfortable now for me because of the potential suspension looming. Now, if he goes back to and magically Goodell all of a sudden changes what he's done every year he's ever been the commissioner and says, you know what, slap on the wrist, we'll give you a fine, nothing, move on, no games, suspension, or like 1 or 2 games, then I think you have to move him up into your rankings. But if it's somewhere in that 5 to 6 or more ranking, or like overall, I think that's where you move him back.
It's almost half the season. Right. I would definitely adjust mine at that point too. But I'm just saying right now.
Right now, at the current moment, without any suspensions, yes, you'd have to potentially move him up. So we'll see over the next couple months. It's just
someone we'll have to watch as this progresses.
Yep. Signings we had this week was T.J. Yeldon agreed a 2-year contract to the Bills.
Cool.
Great.
So he joins the
old man crew.
Right. Yeah.
Old men of football. So will he be allowed to get into the club, like the running back room, because he's underage?
He's got an Uncle Drew. He's got to dress up.
I don't know. I kind of like Yeldon though in general.
I do
too.
And with how McCoy's health is up and down, and he's over 30, I think this is a good guy to kind of slide in on a cheap version.
Well, it just
of
tells
McCoy.
me that they're going to split Gore and LaShawn just rushing, and Yeldon's going to be your pass catching guy.
True.
Yeah.
Then the Steelers signed a 2-year deal extension with Big Ben, keeping him through 2021. So
he got paid.
Yeah,
that's why Antonio Brown went bye-bye.
Yeah, probably because he was going to want some serious cash on top of what he was wanting. So
but they're still paying $20 million for him this year.
Yeah, well, you know, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And then kicker news, surprisingly enough, Justin Tucker signs a 4-year, $23.05 million extension with the Ravens.
Best player on their team.
Pretty much.
I wish I could kick.
Right. So that's pretty much all we got for the news and the notes. So let's go ahead and get into the 2019 sleepers.
Wake up, wake up.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I think that was for you. Wake up, wake up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is the 2019 Sleepers presented by Trophy Smack. Trophy Smack has 1,000 different unique fantasy trophy combinations. They also have fantasy rings, fantasy championship belts. Regardless of the sport, they're adding for baseball, basketball, football. They've already got
thumb wrestling
potentially. They
crazy.
Might. I mean, that might be
crazy.
Might be a platform to try to reach out to.
Thumbs up.
Right. Thumbs up. Anyways, level up your fantasy smack talk with Trophy Smack today. Head over to trophysmack.com. All right, so which of you would like to give your sleepers first?
Go ahead, man.
All right. Were you?
Look at me.
I thought you get ready to say something.
No, I'll go first.
Sure, go for it.
All right. First one we're going to start out of the gate with is Mike Davis.
I like it.
Running back. No one?
Bears?
Thank you.
Oh,
Jeez,
I
thought we
didn't know
covered.
there was a poll question for the crowd. Sorry, my bad.
Anyways, the reason why I like Mike Davis here is because I just think he's Howard all over again.
Goal line.
Yep, he's another version of him. Well, actually, I think he's gonna carry the ball more than you think. There's 250 carries that are gone and 1,000 yards from last year. Tariq Cohen's not going to take all that. He has only had 1 year of 99 carries. That's his max in a year.
Yeah.
I don't see him surpassing 150 carries.
I don't either,
No.
to be honest.
I do
So-
think they'll put more on Cohen's plate.
Right.
And I think the offense is
Passing.
going to potentially transition to more pass-oriented.
Right, I agree. And Davis has shown he can catch the ball too. I just think it's going to be a dual back system here where both are going to have value. Davis here, even if Jordan Howard had a down year, we say, he finished RB20.
Yeah.
So Davis, who's
It
going
just
in
wasn't
your,
what we
right.
were used to.
So if Davis is your RB3 right now, zone, where he's being his ADP, I think he could finish, an RB2.
Right. And I think the biggest thing with, like, Jordan Howard's, like you said, finishing running back 20, if you took his name off, like if you put a cover over his name and you did not see what the name was and you just saw running back 20, and you're like, you know what, I think that would have been, I mean, that's pretty good for a running back 20 for the year. And then you pull back the curtain and you say, oh, that's Jordan Howard. And you're like, oh, no, well, he was going like second-round draft picks, third-round draft picks. And you're like, that's not good.
Right.
Right.
So I think the biggest thing is if you can get anywhere close to the top 25 running back from Mike Davis where he's being drafted right now, perfect. And that's the thing. If you could even get a portion of what you got from Jordan Howard to get him in that top 25.
Right, and his ADP is him in the 11th round. If you can get a valuable running back that late, and that's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a perfect spot for a guy. And I think essentially they just found a cheaper version of
Right.
Jordan Howard because like I think you had pointed out over the last couple of times that we talked about Jordan Howard. He's up for a contract. He's wanting money.
Yeah, this is his last year on his rookie deal, so
Right.
he's going to want to get paid.
So they were able to bring in somebody who essentially in their mind can do the same job that Jordan Howard does
Same amount of production
for less money.
Right.
So I think
because
it's a good idea.
Trubisky's contract's going to be coming up.
Yeah, and they didn't move up in the draft and give away the fortune of the farm for Trubisky to not pay him in a couple years.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, and this is Davis' time to shine, too.
Yep.
right,
I agree. I like that. That's a good sleeper.
yep.
All right, moving on. We got Dante Pettis coming in at my second sleeper this year. He's catching a lot of buzz this year. And really what I like about him coming out of that sophomore class of wide receivers with Ridley, DJ Moore, and Christian Kirk is I feel like he's the only one that could establish himself as the number one on that team.
Right.
Yeah.
So with Jimmy G coming back, that's actually the whole key here. If Jimmy G's not healthy all year, obviously I think Pettis is going to fall back.
Right.
Right.
But, I mean, his last 4 games last year, he had 17 receptions, 338 yards, and 4 TDs. I think that can project him going forward. That's going to be his stat line, I think, as the year goes on. So, I really like him here, and I really think that the 49ers in general, their offense is going to look a lot better this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say my only I'll play the opposite end of it and like the negative for Dante Pettis, but I really like Dante Pettis. But the thing is, with this weekend coming up with the draft, we don't have a whole lot of quality wide receivers for the 49ers. My question is, if they go get one of these, now I don't believe that they're going to take a wide receiver with the second overall pick, but I'm saying somewhere in, or if they move back into the first round to take one of these wide receivers, or if they take a wide receiver in the second round, do you think that puts a ding in Dante Pettis' overall potential? Yes or no?
I think, it's going to definitely take away from volume.
Yeah, it'll take away from volume, but Jimmy G's comfortable with Pettis. They already got that chemistry.
Right. Well, because I've seen some people say, well, if the 49ers go get a wide receiver or one of these top wide receivers that we've talked about, then that could potentially ruin Dante Pettis' fantasy value and relevance this year. And I'm like, yes, from a production standpoint, yes, you're going to take targets, you're going to take receptions off of it.
Anytime you add another weapon, you're taking food off of somebody else's plate.
But I think the overall potential of touchdowns and yards after the catch is what you're going to be getting with Dante Pettis. That's the biggest thing. And if they go get one of these big wide receivers, you just slide Pettis right into the inside. But I just think that you got Kittle, who's going to be a main focal point. And I think the defenses are really going to tailor to try to take away him specifically. And I think that Pettis is going to have a lot of free roaming out on the field.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I think it hurts Goodwin more than anyone.
Right.
If they bring in another wide receiver.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think
Marquise he's a one-trick pony, though.
Well, he's a slot guy, and if you put Pettis in the slot, then I mean he's not going to be successful on the outside. I mean, if you put him on the outside, it's go routes all day, and that's about it for him. So I don't know. I like Dante Pettis this year. I'm hoping for fantasy purposes that they do draft one of these wide receivers. I know it sounds weird because then it keeps his ADP at the back low because I have a feeling if they don't take one of these upper echelon wide receivers and they wait till like day 3 or whatever, I think that's when you're going to see his ADP start climbing because they're going to be like, well, it's just him and Kittle. So.
And that's the problem with Dante though right now. He's getting a lot of buzz, so his ADP is going to continue to climb. So I actually agree with you. That's a pretty good point. That they draft a wide receiver. I'm hoping it drops it.
Right. If you're a Pettis owner,
especially if they get like a Metcalf
right.
or one of these guys.
If you're a Pettis owner in Dynasty, you are hoping that they draft a wide receiver in this first couple rounds to get somebody of name value in there to kind of take something off.
Listen, at least for fantasy purposes, it's not very often a rookie comes in and blows it up.
No.
Fantasy
well, you talked about like Julio in the draft. Julio's, AJ Greens, these guys are just like Odell Beckham. I mean, there's only like a few group that actually like blow up that year one. And the rest of them are kind of like
usually it takes 3.
Right, it takes
and
most of them
normally they have
3.
to be that guy, the only guy on the field for him.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Pettis though.
We've said it for
Michael Thomas was a recent one too.
Well, we called that one too.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody was. I was like, that guy's too talented.
He can catch everything. Though,
yeah,
so,
like I saw him at Ohio State. He'll be fine wherever he goes.
Right.
So.
All right, and then rounding off, I got a quarterback here, and this is a guy that I think if you wait and draft your quarterback, this is a guy I think can jump into the top 10.
I like it too.
And it's Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So before I sell him, I'm going to tell you the things I don't like about him.
Okay.
He turns the ball over way too much.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, 12 interceptions, 8 fumbles though. That's a lot.
Pocket awareness, pocket presence is not his key.
That's right. I also don't like 320 attempts. Now I know it was only in 12 games, but still I don't like that. You're still not passing enough.
Right.
And his completion percentage was under 53%. That's terrible.
But that was his knock in college too.
Right.
Right. And he ran the ball a lot more than anybody ever expected in the offense.
Well, see, and the reason why I bring up that percentage is that's lower than Rosen's. And if we thought Rosen was trash last year, it didn't look good for him.
You got to look at the offensive line there too.
Right. So then the things I do like, he's going to run the ball a ton. The 89 attempts last year for 631 yards and 8 touchdowns. You know, the only person who outran him last year?
Lamar Jackson.
Right. And he did it Allen did it only in 12 games.
Right.
So projecting forward, he's going to have a beast year. But also, I like they brought in Cole Beasley, John Brown, and Yeldon.
Field stretchers.
Playmakers.
Bring it in, and then Foster and still Zay Jones there. And actually, someone else kind of sneaky here is Tyler Kroft. They brought in also.
It's going to be Clay still there or no?
I think he is, but he's coming off that injury. So,
okay, so they got Kroft.
Even if
they could run with him and Kroft. He's got a lot of weapons now. He didn't have that
the
last year.
offense upgraded.
Oh, actually,
tremendously.
they brought in offensive line help already.
Right.
They're doing enough to make him to show what his abilities are. But also, I mean, from week 12 to the end of the season, you know, his QB2, 26 points a week.
Yeah, it was mainly his rushing though.
Right. Well, listen, his bread and butter is going to be right there. It's kind of like I said, he's kind of like a Cam Newton. As long as he's going to turn the ball over, he's not going to throw a ton of yards, but he's going to rush a lot. He's going to have a lot of rushing touchdowns.
And as you just alluded to, he's got a lot more weapons to play with this year.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing I think that people have to look at is Josh Allen. Yes, he had a rough rookie year. Maybe it was more run-oriented. But I think that if they can find a balance for run and pass for him, and with the fact, like you said, with all the weapons they did bring in. I mean, you think about last year, he was playing with Robert Foster and Zay Jones, which is not a knock, but how many other rookie quarterbacks were playing with like a little bit better talented, have played with better talented like wide receivers coming in? I mean, you think about it, Dak Prescott came in his rookie year. He had Dez, he had Cole Beasley. I mean, he had a couple well-known guys. He didn't have young guys. That's the thing. I feel like when you bring in a young quarterback and you have young wide receivers, you tend to be struggling offensively. You rely more on the run game.
Right.
And they really didn't have a great run game because they didn't have great offensive line play. So, I mean,
they were the Cardinals.
Right. It was another version of the Cardinals, essentially. So, I mean, I just feel like it was like Rosen and Allen were kind of the same thing. The only difference is Allen made up for his lack of offensive production because he could run the ball himself. Rosen is not a runner. So.
No. Right.
So that was my thing. But I like Josh Allen, and I think this is, as long as Buffalo continues to kind of build the offense, I think he's going to be better and better success-wise.
Yeah, I just like the pieces they brought in. They've got everyone
right
now.
And that division's not a strong division.
No.
I mean, you have the Patriots and
they've dominated the last decade or so. But
I mean, I'm just saying it's the Patriots, but nobody.
The Jets have gotten better though.
The Jets. I'm just saying nobody really has like a standout defense or offense that's really gonna put a ton of points on the board offensively outside of maybe the Patriots.
It should be a little bit more interesting this year.
I think the level of the playing field is gonna be a little bit closer this year. Patriots, I still give them a small etch above everybody else just because they've done it for so long. But
you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say you can mark this down right now in that division. The Dolphins will finish last.
Yeah,
that's what they're aiming for, though.
Fitz magic, baby.
Tank for Tua, I think what they're saying.
Right.
So.
Tank for Tua, I like it.
You want me to go next?
Yeah,
I'll go next.
Go ahead.
That's cool, man.
Remember, it's his show.
Yeah. My first sleeper is Latavius Murray.
Yes.
His current ADP right now is 9th round, 3rd pick. You got to think he's going to be doing the Mark Ingram role. He's pretty much the same kind of running back as Mark Ingram, just bigger.
Yeah.
Mark Ingram last year had 132 points, and he finished RB 29. I think Murray can be a little bit higher than that, actually, because I think they're going to try to take the workload off of Kamara running.
Why is that? I think that they're going to probably do a balanced run attack from the get-go. And the thing is, last year, Kamara saw for the first, 4 games, he saw an inflated volume because there was no Mark Ingram.
Right.
You're going to start with Latavius Murray and
6'3"
Kamara.
running back coming in. I mean,
that's like
the goal line,
Eddie George type.
The goal line is
his.
his. The goal line is his.
Latavius is a beast, so.
Yeah. So, and they got Jared Cook, too, for goal. I mean, that's going to be deadly offense.
Right, and there's talks that they may go take one of these tight ends as well in this draft, which to me hurts Jared Cook more so than anybody else.
True.
But ultimately, I love Latavius Murray this year. And I think his ADP has fallen for what value-wise you can get for him.
9.3.
Yeah.
That's cheap.
For a guy who potentially has RB2 potential, please.
Yeah, I compare him to how you had Mike Davis. It's around the same. They could have around the same production.
Yeah, because he's not a handcuff guy.
Right.
He's got his own value, and the best part is you want him on an offense that's going to score.
And if you get Kamara, you might as well handcuff him because if Kamara was to get hurt, that's your bell cow right there.
Right, and I think that's what we saw with Minnesota. I mean, you drafted Dalvin Cook, then you took somebody like Latavius Murray later in a couple later rounds.
And it panned out.
Yeah. I mean, Dalvin Cook got hurt that year, and Latavius Murray kind of took over, and it just –
That's what makes Atlanta's situation so interesting, that they didn't try to bring back Coleman. Because, again, I thought that was a dual back.
I thought so too, but they must think that Edo Smith can do what Tevin Coleman does, or there has been rumors that they're moving up into the top 10 today.
Yeah,
so
but
maybe
what running back are they going to get? Josh Jacobs definitely isn't worth a top 10 pick.
No, but I'm telling you right now, obviously, if you listen to this after the picks have been made, I'm just telling you, don't be surprised.
They're going to listen to this.
Josh Jacobs, don't worry, he's going to be like in the first 12 picks. I have a feeling.
Spoiler alert.
I'm telling
you,
somebody's going to move up to get him. I don't know why. It just seems like his name is buzzing out there for 4 or 5 different teams that need a running back. So. Anyways, I agree. I like Latavius Murray in the big picture for
I do too, especially with his ADP being so low. Yeah. My next guy is Chris Godwin.
Yeah, offense is going to be it's going to be good with Arians there.
Well, it'll be more pass heavy for sure, but I think that the loss of Humphreys is what makes this good
even
for
better.
Godwin. Yeah, because last year Humphreys 76 receptions, 816 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's got to go somewhere. I mean, Mike Evans is going to get his. We all know that. And he did very well last year.
O.J. Howard's going to factor in more.
Right. But Godwin, I think he's going to pick up a lot of that slack.
Oh, yeah. I like Godwin. Where's his ADP at?
Now, right now it's 6.1. So.
Well, he's caught a lot of hype, though, this offseason. But I'm hoping that maybe with the offseason that maybe his ADP will kind of slide a little bit with some of these rookies being put in and maybe some movements of other players to other teams and stuff like that.
I think the Jameis Winston hype will come down a little bit, too.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll drop almost everyone's ADP in that offense.
Right.
See, I think for him, it's like we talked about earlier. If they do draft one of these high-profile wide receivers, his ADP will end up dropping because he's not a big name.
Right, and I think that's the thing. I think their names have been linked to running back and wide receiver, the 2 positions that they were looking at. So which Josh Jacobs' name was attached to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So that's another one that potentially you could look at. But I agree with you. I think that for Godwin, I think it's the same setup as what Pettis. You almost want, for fantasy purposes, you almost want them to bring in one of these higher profile wide receivers to pair up with Evans and him, or Pettis and Kittle, to kind of make that ADP back down a little bit.
Right.
So
because he'll be productive.
Yeah.
My last guy, and this is probably one of my favorites, is Vance McDonald.
Yeah.
Sleeper tight end. His ADP right now is 10-10. Ooh. So, I mean, that's pretty low.
That's a good spot for a tight end with
really
that potential upside. I mean, that's a Kittle upside potential from last year.
Yeah,
he's all by himself there now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he had 50 receptions, 610 yards, 4 touchdowns last year, and there's no Antonio Brown. So I think he's going to pick up a lot of targets, and no Jesse James.
Yes, that's the big one too. I mean, they got Moncrief, they got Washington, and they got Juju, and they got Connor and all of that. But I do think the fact that he is the only tight end in the offense is a big help for him, because I think that's going to help him opportunity-wise. And they just signed Big Ben for a couple more years.
2 more years, yeah.
So
and AB was a huge goal line guy.
Right.
Well, those are all gone. It's got to go somewhere.
Yep.
And Vance is a perfect target. I mean, he's huge.
And in the 10th round, I think that'd be a good steal.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they use the offense now without AB, how it looks, and where. I mean, we've talked about this many times, where they put Juju on the field. If they put him on the outside, if they put him on the slot, where they put him is going to be key for Juju's success. Plus, I think that that kind of helps everybody else depending on where he goes, because if you put Moncrief and you put Washington on the outside, you put Juju in the slot, I think Vance McDonald as the standard, obviously tight end. I just think that that's a good spot to put him for fantasy purposes overall.
Right.
I mean, he's got top 5 potential, and you're getting him in the 10th round, and his ADP may even slide more once you input these rookies. That's the thing.
Right.
Hawkinson and all these guys are not even in the ADP purposes right now.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, last year they had Brown, Juju, Washington was sprinkled in there.
Right.
James and Vance McDonald, and he still did well.
Right.
Now 2 of those big guys are gone, so it's just going to be him eating at the tight end spot,
Right.
unless they draft one.
Right. I mean, I think the biggest thing help-wise for him is the fact that they're going to – I mean, that these high-up echelon tight ends in this class is going to – I think going to back down Vance McDonald, because I think his name is kind of like an under-the-radar guy. And this is what we talked about in the tight end show, is his name is kind of under the radar. Like, who, when you hear Vance McDonald, you're like, oh, yeah, he's the tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you really don't think of him as like a fantasy-relevant tight
Right.
end.
Now, if Pittsburgh was to go out and draft like a Irv Smith
Right.
or a Noah Fant,
Right.
somebody toward the back end, then he'll drop a little bit.
Right. I think I'm hoping for this is the situation that I don't want them to draft the same
Right.
position. I don't want them to draft a tight end. I want them to steer clear of any of these tight ends so that
Or
Vance McDonald
get a day 2 or 3 guy. That way they have just another tight end, but he's still
Blocking
going to be
tight
I
end.
think you'll be okay there. I think they're going to go defense.
I'm hoping that they go defense. They need to go defense. That it's kind of like a couple years
They need a
ago.
corner.
It's old.
Yeah.
It's
Greedy
aged.
Williams, I think, would be a good fit for them. He's big 6'2" corner out of
No,
LSU.
listen, I don't need any of that. Come on. I don't need the Steelers tearing up my Bengals again.
Just saying. But
They need defense. You're right.
they definitely do, and I think it's the same like we talked about just a couple years ago, or what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, when the defense was aging. When you had
Joe Hayden.
Joe Hayden, you had who was the end guy, short guy, underside from Kent State, Harrison, and then you had the
East.
linebackers that were all kind of on the older echelon side of things.
Timmons. And
Right. So I just think that overall, this is what I think that they're just reloading defensively this year. I'm hoping for their
It's the
sake.
perfect draft to do it in.
Right.
It's deep.
Defensive heavy.
Right. Well, I mean, you got Watt as like the best player on that defense, and I mean, he can only do so much. I mean, he's not his brother. He's good, but he's not his brother.
He plays more than his brother.
This is true.
Saying.
Fair enough.
Just slid that in there.
Just a little jab.
Sorry, JJ.
Anyways, so
No, he's not.
No, I'm not.
no.
Clowney's better anyway.
Anyway. All right.
Another
So
guy that can't stay on the field.
right.
I love Clowney, though.
When
He's
on the
rumored to
field,
get traded tonight.
Ooh, I'm on board with
Just
that.
saying.
Cincinnati.
No,
No.
Washington.
Oh.
You guys are already good on
Yeah,
defense.
they're rumored
You're
to
good.
everyone.
Right. That's why I like it.
Yeah, they're going to
And then nothing happens,
sign
and
him,
I'm just
dump
going
him.
to be
You're going to give him a huge truckload of money, and then he'll get hurt, and then just be the Washington way.
It would be Hainsworth, Alex Smith, Clowney. I mean, who else wants some? Come on.
Listen, you're paying everyone but the quarterback right now.
Right.
All right, for me, my sleepers, I've got the first one is going to be Calvin Ridley. I just think that the offense, the biggest thing for me last year, he did not play, a ton of games. I mean, he played a good portion of them. He didn't start right off the bat. I mean, Mohamed Sanu was kind of the number 2 there, and then as the year progressed, he became the number 2. So for me, with 60% of the snaps last year, he had 10 receiving touchdowns. That's the big thing for him, is touchdown heavy, touchdown dependent.
But a lot of those were big plays, big 70-yarders.
Right. So I looked. He had 90 targets, which to me is actually a pretty decent amount of volume for a wide receiver 2, even wide receiver 3 for most of the year for a team. 64 receptions. But here's the thing for me. He had 50 reception yards a game, and he ended up with just a little over 100 or 820 receiving yards. So
Not bad.
for a guy who, like I said, lined up as a 2 or a 3 for most of the year, and an offense that really was not running a whole lot of passing plays, that was the big thing. And the big part that I have is like the silver lining is Dirk Cutter coming back to Atlanta.
Yes.
Because
Pass heavy now.
when they were in that offense through from 2012 to 2014, they always had 2 relevant fantasy wide receivers. You had Julio, and you had, I just drew a blank on the guy,
I know.
number 84. I just drew a blank.
Roddy White.
Roddy
Thank
White.
you.
Ooh, look at that.
There you go. So they had Roddy White, they had him, and then they had Gonzalez for some of those years. I'm just saying.
Gee.
So at different points, they had 2 valuable fantasy relevant options not being in the running backs. So to me, he's rolling into an offense year 2, which is a good thing. Yeah, it's a new offensive coordinator, but this organization knows who Dirk Cutter is. They brought him in for that reason, because they know exactly what they're going to get out of him, and putting him in a role that he's comfortable just as an OC only, I think that's a good spot for him. And his offenses when he was in Atlanta was offensive heavy scoring. I mean, they were a high flying scoring offense. So
That's how he got the head coaching position at
Yeah.
In Tampa,
Bay.
exactly. So I think this is a good thing for Calvin Ridley, who is not the one,
Right.
and is kind of etched himself as the 2 essentially for me, because I think Mohamed Sanu is now comfortably the 3, and then Hooper's the 4 in the receptions, like who's like heavy versus like who's the lighter of the reception
I
purposes.
don't know, the way you're selling this right now is kind of making me want to get Matt Ryan late.
There you go.
That was gonna be. I didn't put it down, but for people who draft quarterbacks late, Matt Ryan, and I did look at this stat. He plays better, obviously,
In the
inside,
dome. Yeah, of course.
indoors in general. And I think I looked at it like 3/4 of his schedule to like week 11 or 12, I think is what it is. He plays indoors for the first 11 games of the season.
Matt Ryan.
Boom.
The problem with Matt Ryan, the only thing I have is if you take him early, he's a head case. He can go from like the number 2 guy in fantasy down to 12.
Right.
Real
Well, I
quick.
would make he'd be a late round pick for me at this point. I mean, like where the standard of like where you're drafting most of your quarterbacks, like 9 and later would
Yep.
be a perfect place for him to draft. And if you
There
get
you
a
go.
Calvin Ridley, who is I think right now he's in the 7th or 8th round as your wide receiver 2 or 3.
Nice little
I
stack
think that's
there.
a good spot to be because you know Julio's going to be a focal point. This is a guy that you can kind of tap into that high offensive passing play for a week-to-week basis. So, and like we said, Matt Ryan playing in 3/4 of his games indoors this year, count me in. So
Get that Matt Bryant, too, that kicker.
there you go.
Got to get them dome kickers.
Got to get them dome kickers. And then number 2 for me is Deonta Foreman. This guy he missed majority of the 2018 season, obviously recovering from the 2017 Achilles injury that he suffered in Week 11 versus the Cardinals after he ran like a 34-yard touchdown. He blew out his Achilles. So
I'm surprised he's not hurt just from you saying his name.
Right.
I'll be the negative Nancy on this one. I'm not a fan of him.
I'm not a fan of him. Like
Well, just
overall.
in fantasy, like I'm not.
What if Houston drafts a running back?
That's what I've got right here. So for me right now, Lamar Miller is currently slated the starter. Deonta Foreman is coming back. He is in shape. He is ready to go. He's 100% healed. But the problem is they didn't bring back Alfred Blue, which is a good thing.
Which was a mistake.
But the problem is that leaves the door open for them potentially to draft one of these running backs that they've been linked to because they brought in Josh Jacobs. This is one of the guys that they brought in.
Well, that's the weakest part of their offense.
Damian
Yes.
Harris,
Tight end.
the other running back from Alabama, Damian Harris was brought in, and I forget who the other. They brought in like 3 or 4 running backs, so they're definitely looking. To me, if you've got Deonta Foreman, you're not going to be able to sell him for much in Dynasty right now, unfortunately, because he's coming off of a year off of essentially of an injury from the previous 2017 season, and there's a lot of links, rumors of them drafting a running back early. But if they do not take a running back, or if they take a running back late, to me, that makes Deonta Foreman much more valuable. And he's
Right.
going in rounds, I think he's going currently in like 11 or 12. To me, that's a guy that you can take a flyer on and say, hey, now at the point, once the draft is over, you'll know if they've got a younger running back that they brought in or not. And they didn't. To me, he is perfect in that 11 to 12 range to sit because it's just a matter of time before he's the starter if they don't bring in a running back in the rookie class.
If I got the perfect trade partner for them. They should call San Francisco up and say, hey, what do you want for either McKinnon or Matt Breida?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to run Matt Breida, McKinnon, and Tevin Coleman.
Right.
True. I don't know. I would be interesting. My biggest thing is that when he actually played in 2017 through 10 games, he saw 57% of the touches, and he was used 59% of the time when he was on the field. To me, when you had Lamar Miller, who had just gotten that big contract, they made it very clear that they wanted Deonta Foreman to be good. They wanted him to be the guy. They pushed it to the point that he got hurt in Week 11. So I'm hoping that they give him another opportunity once he's 100% ready to go.
Well, I think they're ready to do a split backfield here. So, but that actually is going to increase Foreman's value then.
Right, because
Because Miller turned it on at the last quarter of the season last year.
Right, but they want to keep him healthy.
right.
I get it, but
I just think that you got a guy
which
running
one?
back. Right. They're both.
Which one?
No, good point.
So I just think that this offense it needs a solid running back to take it to the next level. It's already a good offense. It just needs a solid. If you could get the production that you got out of Lamar Miller in the back half for the whole entire season, I think that raises everybody on that team's fantasy relevance and value wise, points wise, everything goes immediately through the roof because I think yes, the tight end is the lacking point between the running back and the tight end is the worst of the two, but I think if you can put a good running back in there that can play 60% of the snaps and get you a touchdown every other game, I think that's perfect.
if they can get one of these upper echelon tight ends at the end, like we just talked about,
Yeah.
and then they go ahead and get Jacobs or somebody in the second round,
Yeah.
that'd be deadly.
The offense needs
Watson's ADP just would shoot through the roof.
right. It's that gif of the guy stepping on the rock and just shooting right off the dock.
Right.
Listen, if they do that, I've never been a huge Watson guy.
Right.
But I mean,
I have.
he's starting to grow on me now.
I say he's
I
been
love
Watson since
Watson.
day one. So you would.
And it's not true. The first time when we actually did our show when he was a rookie, I did not like Deshaun Watson at
I was the
all.
one that pushed the ball down the hill to get the ball.
But
the
once I
snowball
seen him
rolling.
start playing, it was over. I was sold.
I sent him a membership card for Watson. Yours could be in the mail immediately if you need one.
Like
Yeah,
on
you might
Facebook,
need- you might need to send it.
I'm a top fan. You
Getting
know what I'm
on
saying? Like on Facebook.
So on Facebook. And then the following guy that I got, the last one is Geronimo Allison. The big things, points wise, that I found, Packers re-signed him to a 1-year deal this offseason. They could have let him walk, could have kept and put in MVS or Equanimous St. Brown. They let Cobb go. They brought him back instead. I think that they want him to be the wide receiver 2 in this offense.
Yeah,
Which no, go ahead.
No, I don't want to.
No,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Okay. There was a rumor that they really, really like Paris Campbell from Ohio State, and they're
Yes.
trying to get him to be their slot guy, which would make Devontae Adams and Geronimo as the 1 and 2.
Yes, and I think that's the thing. They're trying to solidify the wide receiver 3 spot, whether that's Equanimous St. Brown or MVS or one of these wide receivers that they may take later in the draft. But I mean, Paris Campbell's name's been linked to Seattle as well. He came in for a workout, which to me would be perfect for another field stretcher. So, but in reference to Geronimo Allison, played only 5 games, weeks 1 through 4, and then week 8. And he was a wide receiver 34 before he got hurt. Now, that when you're like, that's not great. Where he was being drafted, that's perfect.
Right.
I mean, he was being like back in like 14, 15 to like not drafted. So
Free agent.
What stinks for him, by the time you picked him up off the waivers, he got hurt.
right. He was hot for. You were like, okay, week 1, okay, week 2. Like personally for me, I don't like to jump immediately on like the waiver wires to pick up a guy that had like a boom week. I want to see at least like a week or 2 of like 2 weeks minimum for a guy to
Yeah,
be
but then they're
successful.
gone.
Exactly. That's the that's
why
the dice you roll.
You got to jump on the boom and then sell it.
Right.
So for me, I was
Buy
one of
and
the
sell,
guys that
come on.
I couldn't pick him up. I had him by the time he got hurt, and it was like, okay, well, that's great.
I did the
So-
same thing with Dilly Dilly.
right. So, but he was
Old
averaging
Dilly Bar. Bring him
the
back.
Dilly Bar. They averaged he averaged 12.5 fantasy points a game in those first 4 games, which
Not
is
bad at all.
crazy.
Yeah.
So
For somebody not even being drafted.
Right.
Right.
Well, he missed weeks 5, 6, and then they had a bye week 7. So he kind of, if you're really looking like the average, he really did very well for a 4-game stretch, which, I mean, a lot of people were on hype with, like guys like Watson and some of these other guys that were attached for only like 6 games. So to me, if you're wanting a wide receiver that's late, because he's, I think, around 14 still right now, to me is perfect for this guy because
Especially if they don't go get a wide receiver.
Right. Played 71% of the snaps last year in the games that he was playing in, which is crazy. That's a lot for a guy that's not relevant, not playing. But he was targeted, he was averaging 4 receptions and 6 targets a game, which that's a pretty good amount. And I think he was averaging somewhere around 15 yards per reception. That's good.
The only thing that scares me about this, and we're probably on the same
I
thing,
think so too.
is the coach coming
Yep.
in.
Oh,
Because he
yes,
already-
About
sir.
to ask.
Yes,
Because he
sir.
already said that they want to be more run heavy, and they're going to do a committee running back. So that's going to hurt the passing, obviously.
That guy sucks.
Now, obviously, Devontae Adams is going to get his, but
Wow.
Geronimo and St. Purple and all these other guys.
Listen.
Quantum,
Listen.
St. Brown, St.
Yeah, I
Purple,
like it.
whatever.
Listen, you had me at wide receiver 2 for Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. You always want that, so.
Yeah.
I didn't need anything else, but yes, I am concerned about LaFleur's offense.
For
Peter LaFleur.
I'm hoping that they don't take. This is one of those situations that we talk about. You want them to take an upper echelon wide receiver because you want one of these big name guys in there to put them on the outside, opposite of Adams, and then you can put Allison right there in that slot spot, and then you're good to go.
I mean, Cobb dominated there for a few years before he was injury prone.
Right. I mean, at one point you had Nelson and Adams, and you had Cobb in the slot, and that offense was scoring at will. And I just think that's the thing for this offense. Yes, LaFleur is going to bring in his own offensive style, but the guy named Aaron Rodgers is still the quarterback, and ultimately he had a coach in Mike McCarthy that he pretty much told him to take
Play on a broken leg?
Yeah.
No.
He pretty much tells Mike McCarthy to take a seat and just keep looking at the clipboard. I'll take care of this offense. Don't worry about it.
Discount. Double check that.
Right.
Now he's sitting at home.
Now he's sitting at home.
Eating a sandwich.
No, but like,
lots of cheese.
listen, pro tip. Late in the draft, there's still a wide receiver for Green Bay out there, MVS or Allison. You got to snatch him
Any
up.
pass-heavy team.
See what happens.
I'm just concerned with the running coach coming in.
Yeah, that is a concern for me. I mean, when I was looking over this, I'm like, okay, you got Matt LaFleur coming in. We don't really know, like, offensive, but he does really good passing wise. I mean, he spreads the ball around. When you look at it, that's a good thing for a receiver, especially a wide receiver too. I mean, Adams is going to dictate he's going to get what he wants.
Right.
He's going to require so many targets, so many receptions.
And I know he didn't have a great year last year, but you still got Jimmy Graham floating around out there.
That is actually one of the teams that has been linked to a tight end.
The good thing here,
And bringing him behind Jimmy Graham to kind of pair up with.
well, the good thing with Allison in reference to Graham is Graham can have the touchdowns. You want Allison just to have the volume.
Yeah.
I mean,
For
yards per
PPR at
reception,
least.
15
Right.
yards per reception. So if he's getting you 4 receptions a game, that's your 4 points. And if you're in a full PPR, then you've got the 15 yards, which is 1.5. So for every time he touches the ball, he's getting you somewhere around, 3-4 points?
5 by my count. Right, 4 for the catch.
I mean,
plus
if he
the
right, but I'm saying if he does a
Yeah.
reception, for every reception, he gets you 1.5. So you're looking at 2.5 points for every time he touches the ball.
Okay.
No? Math?
No, we're
Carry
good.
the 1,
the
divide it
one,
by
yeah.
3, and we're
Anyways.
at 2.
So-
Moving on to English.
Right. Social studies next. Yeah, so I'm on board with Geronimo Allison. I think that
I like it.
regardless of whoever the wide receiver 2 is in Green Bay, if it's not Allison at some point, that's the guy to have
Hey,
because it's booming.
2 years ago, Jordy Nelson was number 2. Devontae Adams was number 9 in the
Yes.
same season.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers has proven year in and year out when he is healthy and not playing on a broken leg, Mike McCarthy, that he can be carrying of 2 wide receivers in that top 10.
Boom.
Even in, wide receiver 1 and even like early, like a top end wide receiver 2 potentially. So I'm all on board with whatever. This Packer offense does have question marks though.
And what was his ADP again? Is it 14?
14. He's at 14.
I like that even more.
Foreman is at, I believe, 12 or 13 right now, and Ridley is at 7 or 8 right now when I last looked the other day. So
Perfect.
I'm on board with that. So,
Some good sleepers there.
yeah, I mean, obviously some of these guys
Don't
could change.
sleep on these sleepers.
No.
Ooh, I like it. Get on my pillow. I knew you would.
Anyway, so obviously some of the guys that we're mentioning
What are
could
the ones you cuddle with? You know what I'm talking about? It looks like a
The
human-
body pillow?
Yes.
body pillows? I don't
Yeah.
know who makes those, but yeah, that's a body pillow.
That's what we got to get.
All right.
I'm just going to go to sleep.
Just take a nap right here. So ultimately, the guys that we mentioned, who were your guys again, just so people
Go ahead.
know?
Mike Davis, Dante Pettis, and Josh Allen.
All could potentially. Pettis, I think, one that could potentially boom ADP wise if they don't get a wide receiver. But
Right.
ultimately, you're hoping they get one so his ADP stays low. Mike Davis, I think, has got an edged out offense in his offense. And then the final one was
Josh
Josh
Allen.
Allen. He'll be all right.
Yeah.
Mine are Latavius Murray,
Perfect.
Chris Godwin,
Yes.
Vance McDonald.
Check, check, and check. I'll take them all 3.
Yep.
And the thing is, their ADPs are perfect, and their ADPs could potentially.
I mean,
tank even
Godwin's
more.
is kind of it's
creeping
first
up.
pick of the 2nd or 6th round, but yeah. I think if they draft, especially like we're talking, if they draft another guy, just name alone, he's not a big name, so he's going to drop in ADP.
Yeah, very much so. So, and then mine is Calvin Ridley, Deonta Foreman, and I just drew a blank.
Geronimo Allison. Man, see?
He is sleeping.
Always
so
forgetting the
much.
number
Yeah.
2 guy, man.
Man, sleeping on it. Anyways, but for me, Ridley, I think, etched out his spot in the offense. Dirk Cutter coming in is a plus for him.
I like that Matt Ryan.
Right. As long as the ADP is still staying comfortably around
You
that
guys can have that, Matt Ryan.
7 to 9, I'm on board with it. He's probably gonna take him, just so you know.
You know, by the time he drafts Matt Ryan, he'll have 2 quarterbacks, and I won't even have 1 yet.
That's
Possibly.
possibly.
And at the end of the season, I could have ring number 3.
This is true. This
Boom.
is true.
Yeah, we
Anyways,
expanded the league. We'll see.
this is true. The percentage odds do go down a little bit, but
Stop doing math. Next.
Did we get a ring for finishing second? Come on.
participation?
Yeah.
No.
You can get a ring pop.
There you go.
Cherry or blue
Boom.
raspberry.
I'm going with cherry.
There you go. All right, that's all we got for today's show. We wanted to tell you guys thanks for joining us, whether it's on the podcast, YouTube, or on DATV. If you're on DATV side, you'll be able to watch us at 10:30 p.m. on Fridays and 4 p.m. on Sundays. And obviously YouTube, anytime once it uploads, once you hit that notification button. And that way, once this video uploads, you'll be able to be notified that, hey, Hateful Eight's got a new video. Go watch it.
Hey, if you're feeling frisky, hit that like button.
There you
And
go.
subscribe.
There you go.
All of it. Just hit it
Yeah.
all.
Just tap, 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 tap.
It'll
all on
pause
the
for a
screen.
second, but if you hit it again, it'll play.
It'll go back.
Yeah.
And then on the podcast side, if you're on iTunes, Google Play, whatever, just make sure you get the notifications so that way you get notified for that. And then leave us a comment and rate the show. I don't even care if it's
anytime.
I don't even care if it's like a 0. I don't even know if that's possible, but anything.
Oh, it's possible.
0 to 5, what you like, what you don't like. But and then if you want to kind of, as the season now, once the NFL draft kind of ends, then obviously some more articles are going to start rolling out with just potentials and stuff like that post fantasy draft. So if you want, that's at thehateful8ff.com. We'll also have a show, articles for apparel as well. It keeps you up to date with all that stuff as well. And then we have the draft loadout. You can go to averagejonation.com, pre-order that, $8 right now.
Do it.
Trophy Smack is throwing in 50% off promo code if you purchase pre-order before June 1st. Get you a fantasy championship ring.
Why haven't you done it yet? That's my question.
They've said that there's been a bunch of people already doing it, so obviously don't want to miss out on this. And then you're also your name is dropped into, I don't want to say a bucket, a hat, whatever, into a drawing.
What if it is a bucket, though?
You're dropped into a bucket. Well, whatever.
They drop you into the bucket?
Maybe.
Mr. Bucket.
Mr. Bucket. You get a free ring,
Ring
potentially.
fly out of my mouth this time.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Bucket. All right. Anyways, so that's the big thing. You can get 50% off your championship ring on Trophy Smack, as well as be entered into a promotional giveaway to get a actual championship ring. So you could potentially get a draft loadout for $8, buy a championship ring for about $15 to $20, and then get a free championship ring on top of it. I mean, that's
Craziness.
a win-win-win.
Right.
Just saying. That's 3 wins. 3.
It's a lot of wins.
That's math.
That is math.
We're doing a lot of math today, guys.
We're all, yeah.
Good thing I stink at math.
Right. And then we want to tell you guys, obviously, we are partnering up with Draft Party USA this year, and they are going to be doing for the local event here at Scene 75 in Dayton, August 24th. You're going to be able to get and hang out, come draft with your fantasy league buddies, and you'll be able to hang out with all of us.
Right. I mean, that's the cool part.
I'm just saying, you're going to get pictures with Blackburn. I mean, that's literally, if nothing else, that is the day.
Who doesn't want that?
I mean, look at this space.
Listen, sign
this
me up.
space right here. You don't want to get a picture?
It's the moneymaker. It's the moneymaker right there.
Anyways, so there's going to be a lot of cool things we're going to have set up there. We're going to be wandering around, hanging out, sitting down with you guys, giving you some help.
Also, eating
people's food.
That's what I'm doing.
This is true.
Sounds like a great idea.
I'll be like,
they may not want you.
Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Yeah.
So
that guy gets up the draft. I eat his pizza.
But we're going to have, you can go to draftpartyusa.com, but we will, in the links below in the podcast as well as on YouTube, we'll have a promo code working out that you guys can get essentially like a free ticket between your league mates because it's per person. So then essentially you can divvy out the money to make it even cheaper per person. So
nice.
Definitely worth it. You get your draft boards, you get food, drinks all incorporated into it, and you get to hang out with us for the day. I mean, I think that's a win-win-win-win-win. Or did I add an extra win?
That's 5 wins. We're good.
5 wins.
Hashtag winning.
Hashtag winning. So I'm Pickle. You can find me on Twitter at
Pickle.
JPickle, TH8FF. You can find Blackburn at JBlackburn, TH8FF.
Yep.
And you can find Trimboli at FTrim, TH8FF.
Yeah, you can.
Before we get out of here, being draft day,
yes.
Let's take a poll here.
Oh, another one. I like this.
Who's the number 1 pick? Who you got?
Kyler Murray.
I think it's either Quentin Williams or Bosa.
Ooh.
I don't know why. I just have this gut feeling they're going to go off script. It may not even be Arizona who makes the number 1 overall pick, but I'm telling you, I have a feeling.
You're giving Arizona too much credit.
I'm thinking all this quarterback stuff we've been hearing is smoke screens. I, too, think it's going to be Kyler Murray.
Well, then. All righty.
Look, all the Cliff Kingsbury stuff with he's been recruiting this kid since he was a sophomore in high school.
Missed out on him on several times. Now he literally has.
And now he has him sitting in his back. He came to the
facility when Rosen was there.
Right. I mean, come on.
Involuntary workouts. They show up the veterans and Kyler Murray's
what
walking
other potential draft picks went to other teams' voluntary workouts? I mean, come on, really?
Yeah.
I get the NFL wants to keep this a secret for ratings or whatnot, but I think Kyler Murray's they've already known this. I think they have a trade partner already worked out for Rosen. They just don't want to address it yet until Kyler's name comes across that screen tonight.
True. All righty. Well, that's all we got for today. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you guys next week.
Doses.